the influence that environmental judgments have had on the making of environmental law and policy in India, it's been quite a positive one, right? It's been that the judiciary has not only been activist, it's been accused of being interfering with the executive. So at the realm of policy, I think the courts have immense influence. Now the question is, again, the question that I go back to, which is how will the court negotiate its choice of environmentalism? Because the Godavarman judgment is an example that I often give when it comes to the influence of the judiciary in environmental policy. And that's been a continuing mandamus, so it's forever existing. And the court took it upon itself to become the bastion of conserving the forests. But what it also did is it came out with a set of circulars that called for the eviction of the local communities. And these circulars influenced administrative decision making and local policy making, as well as environmental policy making. So my answer to that question is that the courts do have immense influence, but I think it depends on which direction it will go. And the interesting thing that people often will say, and I'm sure the more people you talk to will say that, the courts are too activist, they're too interfering, they need to know their boundaries, we need separation of powers. But my argument has always been that enforcement of judgments, especially environmental judgments in India, has been good because the court actually goes into the enforcement question. So it's not necessarily judicial interference as it is crafting a path for enforcement. So even if you look at the Godavarman case, a positive outcome of that is they set up the Central Empowered Committee, which becomes another avenue for communities to argue that a forest clearance is violating their rights. And in some ways, the enforcement of these questions has been a lot better. Or if you look at the Niyamgiri judgment, what the court essentially did was it said the way to enforce this judgment, and it bypassed all the executive decisions, is that the Gram Sabha has the right to say yes or no. So it crafted how a judgment is to be enforced. And I think that is really promising with the way the Indian courts operate. So I completely disagree with the critique that the courts are too interfering. Well, we need them to be. Let's look at a story where the courts have just pronounced an amazing judgment, and then it's just like a paper tiger, right? Then you have the communities and the petitioners trying to figure out how to enforce it, which is not going to work in the climate context either. So influence on policy, yes, in terms of the enforcement angle, but also in terms of lawmaking. So this idea of the Green New Deal, for example, I feel it'll have persuasive value. So actually, it depends. So if the courts pull up the parliament and say, hold on, like we need a climate law, and then next thing you know, the courts have managed to propel lawmaking and sort of parliamentary action on that. And there have been instances where that in some ways has happened, if you look at the history of environmental law in India. But what it can also achieve is provide new readings of existing laws. So that itself, again, influences policy in a very particular way. So if, for example, let's assume a hypothetical case that somebody approaches the courts and says, the Forest Conservation Act is an important climate law, and it needs to be read in a way that we start to completely curb deforestation because it is a climate issue. Then the court provides a certain kind of alternative legal interpretation, which then sort of spills over into delegated legislation to implement it and all of it. That's how it gets kind of carried forward. Or if you look at the Niyamgiri judgment, a lesser known fact about that judgment is after the Gram Sabha hearings happened, it actually then pushed for a legislative amendment, because before that it was just an administrative notification. So the forest conservation rules were amended to be able to include the consent requirement. So there are multiple ways in which the policy question will play out. And as far as India getting a Green New Deal, I feel it will have to be a two-way conversation, in the sense that a Green New Deal will have to be mobilized among communities, researchers, and thinkers, and climate activists, especially the youth. And that has to be then proposed as an alternative policy approach in a particular case, or it has to be argued out in a very systematic manner. I think courts are always interested in this ability to influence the executive. So I feel it's important to play on that